Good evening, everybody. I am extremely happy today because Public Relations Society of India and also Professor C.V. Narasimha Reddy Memorial Foundation together they are organizing 89th birthday celebrations. In that connection, and the organizers are holding a memorial lecture to recollect the memories of great academician, journalist, publisher, editor, broadcaster, what not, everything, and is a multidimensional personality. Professor C.V. Narasimha Reddy is known for and identified icon for the public relations activity in India. He published many books and authored hundreds of articles, edited a journal on public relations voice, and did a yeoman service to the expansion of public relations activity in the society. Indirectly, that contributed a lot for the strengthening of working democracy in our country also. And at the same time, as a Vice Chancellor of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University, I am also very happy to recollect his services done to our university in many respects. And he headed the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, and also wrote many self-learning mode study material to the students of journalism and public relations, and also very active in many other activities. Even after I came here as a Vice Chancellor in 2016, in my first term, he was here in the university and he used to come very regularly and used to be academically very active and made many proposals to expand the and improve the quality of student services in the Department of Journalism and Public Relations. So, and he had very wide experience in the society because he worked as a PRO and Information Director and Press Secretary to 4 CMs in our state, so that he had connections with so many people, not only in the administration and bureaucracy, and also with the common man in the society. In that way, he could able to give a better direction to the public policies of the then governments in those days. So in that way, the organizers given me a great opportunity to speak about him and also to commemorate his academic work and intellectual contribution for the society, and also to the academic disciplines like journalism and mass communication. So today's topic is implementing new National Education Policy 2020. It is just 1 year baby crawling now, and there are many promises and miles to go. So what I feel, both government and society at large should take the implementation of this new national education policy in a serious sense. Unless we take it seriously at this stage, going way forward will be difficult and hurdlesome also. And at the same time, the new education policy has captured the collective consciousness of the not only the academic community as a whole and also different sectors of the people like intellectual communities and journalists and press and everybody. So the lot of discussion is going on and how to implement the policy and what are the challenges before it and how we can overcome those challenges. All these things are continuously on debate and discussion, and from various angles the issue is analyzed, and the intellectuals from different sectors of the academic community are proposing different way outs and solutions for the effective implementation of this new national education policy known as new NEP. So this NEP has a lot of potential to transform the future of India. It is known as transformative reform policy. This transformation is the very crucial point. We have to emphasize on it. And somebody described it as a vaccine to our education system, which is suffering with many deficiencies of immunity. To overcome these immunity deficiencies, we have to vaccinate. Maybe first dose, second dose, or booster dose also. So, in that way, we have people have lot of hopes. Not only academic community, parents, students, government, and everybody. That means, in a one word, the many stakeholders of this policy has a lot of hopes on this policy. True and realistic transformation of our educational system as a whole. So, this policy has been taken up by government after various consultations at different levels, not only in parliament and also in public life, in press, media, and academic community as a whole involved in the discussions and gave suggestions and made their contributions for the effective framing of the policy. There is no doubt about it. Now, in a way, we can say that a general consensus has been built over this new education policy. That means, here and there may be some criticisms, differences of opinions because of various reasons. But by and large, we can say that this policy has first time in India, because of the efforts of the government and media and academic community as a whole, have made tremendous efforts to bring some consensus in the society as a whole. So, then when comes to the, if you let me briefly touch upon the various important features of the policy, very briefly. What we have said, that is a very potential dimensions to transformation of the society and education system. The major important dimensions which they have added after 34 years of 86 education policy, various new dimensions, new approaches new pedagogical methods have also been included in this new national education policy. A few of them are: one is liberal approach towards knowledge and education. What do you mean by liberal approach? Now this is everything is a specialized education system. Compartmentalization is going on. For a single disciplinary universities are coming up. Agriculture university, medical university, engineering, technological universities. For everything, legal, law education universities, teacher education universities, like that. Bifurcation and compartmentalization is going on. There is no appropriate effort to integrate all these efforts into a comprehensive and broad approach to understand the knowledge, education, and purpose of education and all that. For that, you need a liberal approach. The liberal approach means, apart from having an in-depth knowledge in his own domain or in his own selected subject, he must also have a broader understanding over the related disciplines also. That is the liberal approach. Not only related disciplines and other general subjects in the society. And one should have that approach. That is called as, that is the reason the academicians of earlier years were outstanding scholars. They used to have knowledge in many subjects, including music, arts, and political science. There are so many scholars like that. That should be the approach one should have towards perceiving knowledge and education. And another one is, it has recommended for the multidisciplinary education and research universities, MERUs, popularly known. This is also very important. And even IITs, IIMs, NITs, this is single discipline higher education institutions or standalone institutions or universities must go for, in a short period, short as early as possible, they must shift towards multidisciplinary education and multidisciplinary studies. Even engineering college should have social science disciplines, humanities disciplines, arts disciplines, so that the interaction and study among the students will be very fruitful. They will have a broad-based knowledge as they possess in-depth knowledge in their own domain. And at the same time, interdisciplinary approach towards research and production of knowledge and dissemination of knowledge. Reality is a reality, social reality. There are no many approaches to study it. Public administration approach, sociology approach, anthropology, it is not like that. It is a reality. It has to be studied from all angles when they are necessary at that particular point of time or particular situation. That asks for interdisciplinary orientation and interdisciplinary methodology to study the social reality. And one more important dimension is regulatory bodies. There are very many 15 to 16 discipline-based regulatory bodies are there. And everybody wanted to exercise excess control. Now, policy has given more freedom, wanted to give more autonomy to the higher education institutions, but regulation will be there, but it is a light and a tight. It will be a light regulation, but it will also be very tight. So that a regulation should give positive dimension, positive orientation to correct itself and go forward by the institution. But it should not prevent the academic freedom of doing things. That is most important. But most of the regulatory systems, procedures, rules at present are negative with negative orientation, and they are not able to guide the institutions properly and take them forward in their academic pursuits. And at the same time, another important feature of this policy is recognizing the multi-mode teaching learning processes and approaches. Earlier, only regular universities, in-class teaching and classroom method, that was only the method. Now, it has recognized all the modes of teaching and learning with interactive method. That is called as blended approach, blended mode. And the institutions need to integrate and blend properly this in-class teaching, that is face-to-face interaction, and also distance mode, supplying material and study material through print and electronic media, digital media and all that. And in addition to that, the government is also encouraging online mode with internet support. Many platforms have come, Swayam, NEPTL, then Swayam Prabha, then Consortium for Educational Communication of UGC and all that. So many platforms have come. So if you ask a question, what happened in this 1 year, briefly, is it properly, the child is properly nourished or not? Is it showing any dimensions of growth on its own? We should also understand. And there is no doubt, government has, within 1 year, it has taken many steps. Government of India and also other state governments are moving to that line and path and taking many administrative and other academic steps to take the implementation process forward. Especially, the thing is about the introduction of the academic bank of credits, flexibility to the students. They can opt any subject anywhere. Credits will be get accumulated in your account, and that again they will be properly assessed, and then the awards will be given. And not only that, and online education system has been further strengthened. Maybe because of Corona and COVID-19. That was only the method option meant for us. Here, now these are some of the background aspects of the new National Education Policy 2020. No doubt, the child is growing healthy with proper nutrition and nourishing patterns. Here we have to remember some great social scientists like Harold J. Lasswell, very popular political scientist who, in a way, can be known as father of public policy studies or policy sciences and all that. And he is from Yale University. And also, that way he developed a multidimensional model for the public policy study. That is agenda setting, policy formulation, decision making, policy implementation, and policy evaluation, review, and again. This is the broader framework that is being adopted by all policy makers and implementers also. Long back it is done, but it is going on. Now, we have to add some more few points, especially the popular academicians like C. Rajkumar, who is a founder vice chancellor of O.P. Jindal University, Noida, and also he was alumnus of Madras, Oxford, Harvard, and Hong Kong universities. Now he is member of Implementation Advisory Committee of Association of Indian Universities. Now nowadays he is writing very good articles with a lot of clarity, with a lot of commitment, and suggesting very good recommendations and suggestions for the implementation of this new national education policy. And by and large, my today's talk is also based on his writings and his ideas and his concepts and all that. So, apart from the Herald J. Laswell, he said that 3 more dimensions need to be added for this. Not only 5. 3 is, one is creating awareness among the stakeholders, creating awareness in the society about the new policy, how it will get benefit. Lot of awareness and consciousness. And at the same time, you have to build consensus among the stakeholders. The education policy need to be accepted and owned by academic community, universities, students, parents, government, and job market and industry and everybody. Is it not so? Apart from building consensus, we should also create relevant institutional mechanism for effective implementation. Unless these 3 are added, and effective implementation is impossible. It is very difficult, hurdlesome. We cannot go forward. So implementation requires, this is the plan. And recently one book has come on this area, that is Implementing Public Policy, an Introduction to Study of Operational Governance. This is this title, written by Michael J. Hill and Peter Hupe. In a way, they have defined public policy implementation as a operational governance aspects. When a question comes to the implementation, naturally we have to take so many decisions at different levels. We have to coordinate so many activities at different levels. Then only, and regularly you have to monitor, control, and evaluate, review the process of implementation with specific periodical time, with periodicity, time-bound program. You must have a time. We must complete this program by this time. This is the thing. Unless it is done properly, it is very difficult. Of implementation will become very difficult. So, operational governance is very, very crucial. Again, it comes to the question of public administration dimension of the social sciences. We have to be very careful on that. If we want to briefly touch upon the challenges now we are facing at this context, are also multidimensional. For example, as I have said now, the absence of relevant institutional mechanism is also a big challenge. We have to create different institutions at different levels, at government of national level, state level, and also at institutional level. We have to create, and there should be a proper coordination. This is one challenge. And another challenge is operational coordinational challenge. It's also very important. And you have to involve so many people, technical people, non-technical people, civil bureaucracy, administration, government, media, whatnot, everybody. You have to coordinate, and you have to monitor and control regularly. This coordination aspect is very important. Then we have to address the problem of digital divide in the society, technological challenge. Now we are shifting towards online education. Lot of digital divide is there. People are rural areas. Will they come up and take up the challenge? And will it divide again, further division between elite and the common man? These are the very, very challenging dimensions of the policy. And one more important dimension is financial resources, challenges related to allocation of finances, resources mobilization, how to allot money and how to get it, spend it properly, and all this is another dimension. And apart from this, another important, crucial aspect of the all challenges is legal and statutory framework. Government has to create many institutions, statutes, make acts to implement this policy. Now, the Government of India is making HECI, Higher Education Council of India, with 4 articles. Now we wanted to add one more article in the name of Council for Distant Education, DESI, Distant Educational Council of India, or Indian Distant Education Council, to have a separate regulation system. So, regulatory framework, accreditation framework, and also funding framework, and general standards of operation, standards of procedures, SOP. SOP means standard operational procedures, and overview. So, Professor Rajkumar has suggested this National Educational Policy Commission at the national level to review and monitor the implementation. Intra-governmental coordination, intergovernmental coordination, interinstitutional coordination. At various levels, we have to take up this issue, and all should participate and own this new national education policy for effective implementation. Then only we will get desired results, and we will be able to transform India as a knowledge society with global superpower. That is Vishwaguru. That is the aim. The vision is very high, and policy envisions transforming India into a super knowledge society at a global level. Global superpower, knowledge superpower. So, if you wanted to transform and to reach that height, you can imagine how much work we should do, at what level we have to involve what type of commitment we have to involve in the process of implementation. So, even our Telangana government also should immediately concentrate on this new national education policy. It should also appoint a task force committee to sort out the issues and evolve a effective strategic plan, visionary plan, strategic plan, and action plan for the implementation of the new national education policy in our state also. Then only our education system will get transformed thoroughly, and it will lead us to a knowledge superpower in the world. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you once again to the organizers of this program. Thanks one and all.